Hi, it's Kirby Summers, and I welcome you to my true crime podcast. Today is December 1st. Can you believe it? December 1st. We're rushing toward the end of the year. It's 2024. And I was doing some research for my new series, Weird Scenes in Liverpool. And sometimes I have to use my own work that I've uploaded to my Substack. And I came across an article about Eppy and, wearing women's clothing. So, it is called CROSSDRESSING. And I thought I would share the first portion of that article with you here because I don't believe many people know about this. Um, I want to thank those of you who are new to my channel, and if you're here, it takes a second to give this thing a like and subscribe. So this is a really fascinating account of him wearing unusual clothes that normally females wear. However, it happened, and this case is in court records. So we're talking about Maximilio Cordero, who was born on November 15 in 1983. And ever since he could remember, and I'm reading from my article, he strongly identified as a female. I'm substituting for the word GIRL. At 12, she began to dress like a GIRL and began to live as a female. So she had cosmetic work and hormone treatments to help her look more like a woman. She even learned how to apply makeup perfectly. The reflection in the mirror was stunning. Ava was far more beautiful than many of the other girls she'd seen on magazine covers. But what she wanted more than anything was to be the real thing, to have the change operation. And for that, she would need $10,000. And so she began to save her money in order to have the procedure. In the spring of 2000, while attending the Fashion Institute of Technology on a part-time basis, she was approached by a woman in her 40s. Her new acquaintance confided that she had a super wealthy male friend who could help her develop a modeling career. He has a thing for massages, the woman explained. You should meet him, she urged. And then she handed Ava a slip of paper where she scrawled Eppy's name and address. Ava decided, you know what? I'm gonna do it. This seems like a chance of the lifetime. Let me just say that sentence again. This seems like the chance of a lifetime, and it's a way to make all of her dreams come true. She stood in front of the majestic 51,000 square foot mansion on East 70, you already know what street, with the oversized 16-foot oak doors, and rang the bell. She could hardly believe it. The whole thing seemed like a fairy tale. Clad only in a bathrobe and slippers, Eppy, 47, greeted her. He had grayish hair and a thick Brooklyn accent. The house was awe-inspiring, with designer furnishings and giant sculptures. Ava had never seen anything like it. Eppy took her on a tour of his palatial home. When they stopped at his office, he pointed to the taxidermied poodle and then to the small replica of dog Feces, period. She giggled and he let out a hee-haw laugh. It was like he was a kid all over again. He always got a rise out of shocking people. The gray-haired man then bragged to the 16-year-old that he was the money manager for the billionaire Wex. You can fill in the blank for the name. My friend Wex owns, I'm going to say VS, And I can get him to let you be one of the models in his catalog. He paused and waited for the desired effect. The gleam of hope reflected everything in his victim's eye. Then he added the basically what we call the carrot on the stick, right? That is, if you're nice to me. I'm 16 years old, she began. All I want to do is become a model because she was beginning to become increasingly uneasy. Eppy slipped out of the robe. There was nothing underneath, right? And she knew what was happening, and she was very uncomfortable. And suddenly he grabbed her head and pushed her down, demanding, I'm going to leave that blank, and I'm sure you can fill that in. Be nice to me, he repeated again. He was a bit more stern this time. You know what you have to do. If you want me to help you, then you have to help me. His words were like daggers. He sounded like a mobster and not at all like the billionaire she was told she'd meet. Once he got her to comply, he grabbed her, the same kind of thing that he would have in the lower portion of his torso. Um, and she was just stunned that he would grab her private situation in that way. And then he basically softened his touch after she began screaming. And then he began to, let's just call it, play with it, right? When it was over and she felt completely humiliated and anger and violated. And I use that word and I said it in a way that is kind of slow and separated by air. Um, she was trying to pull herself together, pull her thoughts together. And then she heard him say, very as if it was nothing, come back sometime. Bring your 14, 15, and 16-year-old friends. I love girls your age. He basically acted as if nothing happened. Her entire life, however, had been completely shattered. Um, and then, once the shock wore off, she fell into a pattern of seeing him. And I'm going to just pause here and say that we've seen this pattern repeat itself. Somebody goes in, something horrific happens, and you don't know what to do. It's like your life has become a before and an after. I know that when I was TRAFFICKED, I remember there was a definitive split, sort of like split before, like it was like I had a life that existed up to a certain time, and then another life took over, and then suddenly I had secrets and shame that I had to keep. And I remember, and I'm just sharing this with you since I'm on the topic, going to bed to sleep after that day that changed my life forever to present day. And when I woke up, the instant I woke up, I couldn't remember. All I knew was that something horrible had happened. It felt like there was a heaviness, and it sort of reminded me of what happens when somebody you really, really love has died, and you wake up and it's like, oh my God, something horrible has happened. And then it descended, and it was like even more horrifying to me what had happened to me than how I had felt previously when somebody I did love died. So this has happened over and over again. You're suddenly caught into again having to create a different person in front of your friends pretend that nothing uh, life-changing has happened to you, and you split. You really do become two different people depending on what happens. In Ava's case, many years later, she would take the matter to court. However, there were several things that were put in her way, including a false arrest. As I said, I wrote this for my newsletter, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, and I was researching for my series, Weird Scenes in Liverpool, which connects people in the Eppy person orbit to the Beatles. And I thought it was these connections have never been revealed, and so it was interesting for me to find them. And I think the reason I was able to kind of like look at something that people, researchers and authors and the many thousands of people who have written articles have maybe not written about or not seen, is because through my past with a billionaire in this circle, I knew of some names. Of course, I knew of Michael Milken, and I knew the connections of certain um, very high level people. And so when I was doing some research, and I thought it was going to be just a very the casual one article or two article thing, I was like, wait a second, I'm noticing things that I want to share with people on my Substack and you guys here. And eventually I'm thinking maybe that'll be my next book. I'm not sure yet. In any event, to get back to Ava, she did sue. Certain obstacles were placed in her way, including being falsely arrested. The newspapers had her photograph, and she, very beautiful, plastered all over the front pages, shaming her. Now, we know that when 2019 rolls around, the newspapers actually start calling victims victims. And only the trolls sort of do the shaming. But back in at the time that she brought the lawsuit, the media joined into the thing of making her the liar, the bad person, just turning the script. In any event, this is going far longer than my little story on Ava. Again, I want to thank those of you who are new to my channel, and have a good Sunday. All right, guys, bye.